Today, we're looking at Private Reserve's Plum. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Private Reserve's Plum is a kind of violet magenta-y tone. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a D-like alpha with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that this immediately starts pushing its way up the filter paper, and we get this very light purple magenta leaning tone coming in as it moves up the top. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And if it was not for the D that I put on this piece of filter paper, you would not be able to tell the difference between these two chromatographies. What this tells me is I'm not expecting any kind of real resistance for this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. And looking at the highlighter, it handles it very well. That extra fine goes to just under a medium, probably a medium, but it doesn't blow out. It doesn't become blurry or unreadable, which makes me feel safe using it in a note-taking situation. Water is completely removing it from the page. It has not yet completely removed it, but it is getting there. You easily see the white of the paper start coming through on the left part of that water. And that was only 30 seconds that it was down. Pen Flush did everything that water did, and slightly more because there's chemicals there, but I don't think we would need that Pen Flush. Bleach, as is normal with a non-resistant ink, completely removes it from the paper, but there is no need to use a 1/3 bleach solution. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Plum has a viscosity of 1.87, making this a pretty wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Plum has an average dry time of 19 seconds, making it normal. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It has spots of shading that we see, like the word private starts very dark, it gets to a mid-tone and gets darker again. The rest of it is rather dark. See if we can adjust the focus out here a little bit. Right there feels good. There we go. Alright, the extra fine is a slightly lighter tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading comes through here. It took 11 seconds to dry. The medium is a slightly lighter tone than the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it offers some shading. Like E in the is darker than the rest of the word the. Quick starts dark, gets light, gets dark again. Brown is a very nice light tone all the way through. Fox starts light and gets dark. It's beautiful here. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows no color variation, and we got none. And the scrubby of the medium shows some color variation, and we did get some. The smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. And this ink is, you look at how it's affected. Look at how that's affected for the cream color. The tone of this ink becomes just fantastic right here. Nice. Tomoe River. No bleeding. Of course we have ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a lighter tone.
a few shades, not hugely lighter, but definitely lighter. With no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 19 seconds to dry. The medium is the exact same tone as the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 36 seconds to dry. That's a long time, and it's saved by being a beautiful, beautiful purple. Sorry, needed some water. The scrubby for both show no color variation. We didn't expect any and we didn't get any. And the smear test, you could not recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade comes through. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter. It's like 3-4 shades, shades lighter in tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. We get spots where we see some shading coming through. Like the K is darker in quick, the L in lazy is, the K in quick is darker, the L in lazy is darker, the F in fox is darker. So we get spots that show us some shading, but it's not tremendous amounts of shading, but it is possible. 10 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone that we get with the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and I see no shading come through at all with the medium. It took 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us no color variation, although we saw spots of it with the 1.1. The smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. So this is the Monokaki, Monokaki paper. We get no bleeding. Yes, it comes through a little bit in the scrubby, but I'm putting it on stupid thick, and I could just as easily be scratching the page there. It has some ghosting, and we look at it, it's a thinner paper. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone that we're seeing with the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, but it does offer some shading, like the K in quick is darker, the T in the is darker, L in lazy is darker, the X in fox is darker, so we're getting spots where it's darker for our shading. 9 seconds to dry. The extra fine is the same tone that we see with the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it does offer spots of shading. Some darker spots in the writing, like the K in quick. The is a noticeably darker word than over. Lazy starts dark and works its way light. Brown starts dark and works its way light. It's very nice here, very subtle in its shading. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both the extra fine and the medium show us some color variation, and we did get some color variation. And the smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. So this is Moji Notebook. The Moji paper has no bleeding, no ghosting. Nice. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter as a tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it has those spots of shading again. Like the K in quick is a little bit darker, the L in lazy is a little bit darker, the X in fox, the word the is noticeably darker than the word over. It took 6 seconds to dry. Medium is a much darker tone. It's darker than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. 8 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows us some color variation. We did get spots of color variation up here. The medium shows us none, and we got none. And the smear test, yeah, you could probably recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Word notebook. We get a lot of bleeding, but it does not come all the way through to where it can touch the back or the page underneath. We get a ton of ghosting, everything, even with the extra fine. So this is not really fountain pen friendly paper. It was some notebooks I had that I figured, hey, why not? Well, this is why not. Yeah, so the medium has spread, has feathers, tiny feathers all over it. No halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine has spread. The extra fine has tiny feathers all over it. Like jumps to me looks blurry. Lazy looks blurry. So the feathering's all over. Really consistent feathering all over the writing. 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation. We didn't get any color variation, but you cannot smear this. Look at it. I write and I smear and nothing happened. So it's got that going for it. It means it's not horrible as a pocket walk around notebook. even with this ink, you just can't use the back of the page. And that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Plum, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I'm not trying to set it up with the same kind of qualities here. I just thought that Noodler's Lexington Gray is such a great gray that together they look outstanding. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Plum? Although in most of the writing, it does not really give a lot of shading, the color and tone of this particular ink is the color, or is the tone that will make you like purple inks. This is beautiful. It's one of my favorite purples that I've used, and that's the reason that I put it with Lexington Gray, one of my favorite grays. Thanks for watching.